Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. Hey everyone, before today's episode gets started, I just want to talk a little bit about the fight against Alzheimer's. For those of you that don't know, my family has been impacted by Alzheimer's, and my wife and I are members of the Young Champions for the Minnesota North Dakota chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. The world may look a little different right now, but one thing hasn't changed: the Alzheimer's Association's commitment to ending Alzheimer's. This year, Walk to End Alzheimer's is everywhere, on every sidewalk, track, and trail. Due to COVID, this year won't be a large in-person gathering. Instead, everyone will be walking in small teams of friends and family. We are all still walking and fundraising for the same thing: a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. So I'm asking that if you can, please support our team for the Alzheimer's Association's Walk to End Alzheimer's. This walk is the world's largest event to raise awareness and funds for Alzheimer's care, support, and research. Thank you in advance, and you can find information and links below. And now, back to the show. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a card that's been getting a ton of buzz ever since it was spoiled in Zendikar Rising, and that card is, of course, Lithoform Engine. Lithoform Engine, many players have been asking, is this card just broken? Is it incredibly powerful? Is it a new Commander staple that belongs in a ton of decks? So, I'm going to be answering those questions today with, well, my opinion, so take it or leave it. It might be correct, it might be very much wrong, it might be somewhere in between. But basically, yeah, let's break this card down, talk about some similar cards to it that we've seen in the past, talk about potentially some decks or some commanders that might want it, or kinds of commanders that might want it, and yeah, let's just talk about this card. So, Lithiform Engine is a legendary artifact that costs 4. You can pay 2 and tap it to copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Doesn't end there, though. Pay 3 and tap it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Pay 4 and tap it, copy target permanent spell you control. The copy is going to become a token. So this card's doing a ton of things, so let's kind of break it down piece by piece. First off, we've seen some other cards that do copy activated or triggered abilities, but mostly it's just either one or the other, generally. Some cards that come to mind first are going to be Psionic Resonator. It's an artifact that costs 2, and you can pay 2 and tap it to copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So basically, the same thing, except for just that triggered ability, not the activated ability. It does cost less to cast, but it also costs the exact same amount to actually tap and activate for that. Illusionist Spracers is another one, but on the other end of that, it's an equipment that costs 2, and it says whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose targets for the copy, and it's got equip 3. So this one is limited to just being put on creatures, and it can copy their activated abilities, but only when they activate them, and only when, well, obviously only when they activate them, but also only if it's a creature, again, if it's not a mana ability. Tawnos, Urza's Apprentice, is probably the closest thing that we've seen to this actual ability. Legendary creature, Human Advisor, 1/3 for a blue and a red with haste. Pay a blue and a red and tap it. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this one actually only copies triggered or activated abilities from artifacts, unlike Lithiform Engine, which can copy anything, any triggered or activated ability. So definitely a leg up there. And again, because it's not a creature, it's going to be harder to deal with. And then, yeah, Tawnos is obviously also limited to just Izzet decks, or decks that have the Izzet colors in them. So that's the first part of the Lithiform Engine's abilities. Let's go on to the second one, and that's going to be the copying instant or sorcery. So the first card that came to mind for me was Mirari. Legendary artifact for 5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 3. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. So this one obviously doesn't tap, so you're not limited to just doing that once, although that can be a lot of mana depending on what you're casting. If you want to copy something twice with this, you'd at least need 6 mana plus whatever the cost of that instant or sorcery is. So there is somewhat of a difference there, but somewhat similar. Next up, there's Riku of 2 Reflections, a commander that just loves to copy pretty much anything. So copying instant sorceries and copying non-token creatures. So it obviously does kind of the second and third, a little bit of the third parts of Lithiform Engine, but you are paying different things to do so, and you're not tapping it. And then Twinning Staff is another one that we've gotten recently that basically, it says if you would copy a spell, you get to copy it again, essentially. And you can pay 7 to tap it and copy it instant or sorcery spell. So you're paying 7 to copy it, but you're essentially copying it twice. So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the last part. And again, Riku 2 Reflections is kind of like it. So is Bramble Sovereign. It says, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and a green. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So this one is creature-specific. You can copy a creature when it comes into play, unlike Lithiform Engine, which is any permanent spell. And again, it says spell, so it's when it's on the stack. I'm not a rules judge, but I believe that's just basically what it is. Essentially, you have to copy the permanent spell when it's on the stack, not when it's in the field. Mirrorworks Says, whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, create a token that's copied that artifact. So this one basically kind of handles copying artifacts when they come into play. Again, this doesn't tap like Bramble Sovereign, so you can do it multiple times. Basically, Mythos of Aluna is kind of the catch-all when it comes to being able to copy a permanent. There really aren't too many things that can copy pretty much any permanent. Mythos of Aluna obviously is not something that's repeatable. Lithoform Engine is a repeatable one. Obviously, if you want to do it multiple times on the same turn, you're going to have to untap it and then tap it again to get its effect or get whatever effects that you want. Now, how powerful is this card? Pretty powerful. Many decks out there are looking for ways to do one or multiple of these things. Copying a targeted, activated, or triggered ability, many commanders are built around kind of their triggers. If they have an activated one or a triggered ability, you're going to probably build the deck around what that does. So being able to double that up just for 2 mana is pretty good. Again, if you've got Ceramic Resonator in a deck, you're probably going to want to also run Lithiform Engine for that same commander. You also might want to consider it for commanders that are looking to copy spells as well. And then ones that just have some really powerful permanents that you might be sneaking into play, maybe like a Braids deck or whatnot for that last one. There are plenty of ways that you can utilize that. Again, 4 mana to tap and activate it is a lot, especially when you already are casting that permanent. But it can be a high impact spell when you do it. Just think about having 2 Smothering Tithes or whatnot. That is pretty broken and definitely worth the 8 mana if you can keep those around. So basically, let's talk about some commanders that I just came off the top of mind for, each piece of this card and what commanders would probably want it and how kind of impactful it can be. The Dragon was one that came to mind. Whenever one or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this one wants it for a couple of reasons. Let's say that, you attack with your Dragon, you copy that triggered ability that when it attacks, so you get to draw twice as much, twice as many as your dragons or whatnot, and put 2 permanents into play. I mean, you're doing it separately, but still, regardless, still same thing. Or, if you've got a powerful permanent in your hand and you want a copy of that, instead, you swing with your Dragon, you get to draw a lot of cards, you get to put that permanent into play, and then, you get to say, okay, I'm going to pay 4 and tap my Lithiform Engine and create a copy of that permanent that I'm putting into play that is incredibly powerful. So again, you can have a permanent that's in your hand that costs, 6, 7, 8 mana, and you're basically putting it into play for free, and then, you get to copy it and say, yeah, fun times are had by all. So, next up is one of my personal favorites with Goalless, Tyra's Pilgrim, and again, like the Dragon, there are multiple ways that you can utilize Lithoform Engine with this. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a land card, put that card into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. So that is a triggered ability that you can copy with that first ability of Lithoform Engine. You can also pay 2 in Wilburg and exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost. So this one actually can utilize all 3 pieces of Lithoform Engine. First off, you can just copy this activated ability, and instead of paying 14 mana in total, you're paying 9 to get 2 activations of Goalless, which is an incredible amount of value. Basically, 9 mana to get 6 cards off the top of your library for free is a huge thing. You can also just say, okay, instead of copying that, I'm just actually going to see what I hit off the top, and then if it's instant or sorcery, which you're running a ton of big powerful instant sorceries in this deck, you're going to be able to copy that, or a big powerful permanent as well, copying that. There's a lot of things that Goalless can use this for, pretty much all pieces of that. Another one that kind of is a more simple, not a more simple commander, I guess, but kind of utilizes it in a more straightforward way is going to be Brutalclad Telcore Engineer. Basically makes 2/1 mirrors, and then you can choose to turn all your tokens into one of your tokens. So Brutalclad likes to be able to have some flexibility on what token it's going to be making all of its things into. So if you have Lithiform Engine out and you cast, say, a Sharding Sphinx or something that, isn't a token to start, but you're going to be trying to make a token of it, you can just do that with Lithiform Engine when you cast the card. Again, you need the mana to do that, but you're basically getting it's getting your deck to kind of skip a step where you're having to cast another spell to make a token that's a copy of something that you really want to turn all your tokens into. I just said token a lot. But yeah, Brutalclad could definitely use Lithiform Engine. But now kind of getting back to that main question, or I guess questions for this episode, how powerful is Lithiform Engine? Is it a broken card? Is it a commander staple? Well, in my opinion, I don't think it's a commander staple. I don't think it's a broken card. It's definitely a powerful card, especially in the right deck. Again, a deck like Goalless can utilize kind of all the aspects of this card, and it can be an incredibly powerful thing. So in my opinion, yes, this is a very powerful card, but for the right decks. It's still not, in my opinion, a commander staple. You don't just put this in any and every deck that you have and expect it to be a haymaker every single time it comes out. It can be right in the right deck, right for the right situations, but it's not an auto-include by any means, in my opinion. But as always, that's just my opinion, and now it's my turn to hear yours. So in the comments below, please let me know what you think about this card, Lithiform Engine. Is it powerful? Is it broken? Is it a commander staple? Is Mitch wrong about everything he's said and everything he's probably ever said? Yes, let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.